The Bible begins with a single sentence. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. For billions of people, that's where the story starts. But what if ancient readers believed the story actually began much earlier? Hidden outside the traditional biblical canon is a collection of writings that early Jews and many early Christians knew well, texts that describe angels descending to earth, mysterious heavenly journeys, cosmic rebellions, and events that seem to take place before the familiar world of Genesis fully unfolds. One book in particular has fascinated historians for centuries. It was quoted by early Christian writers. Fragments of it were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yet it was eventually excluded from nearly every major Bible. Today it's known as the Book of Enoch. To some, it's simply an ancient religious work. To others, it's the missing chapter of biblical history. And to a growing number of researchers, it offers a rare glimpse into how people living over 2,000 years ago understood the origins of evil, the heavens, and humanity itself. The question isn't whether the Book of Enoch changes Genesis. The question is why so many people once considered it essential and why it later disappeared from most Bibles. A book older than Christianity. Most people assume the Book of Enoch was written after the Bible. In reality, much of it predates the New Testament. Scholars believe its different sections were written between the 3rd and 1st centuries BC. That makes it older than the birth of Jesus. Its central figure is Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah. In Genesis, Enoch receives only a few short verses, yet those verses are unlike anyone else's. Instead of recording his death, Genesis simply says that Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him. Those few words sparked enormous curiosity. Who was Enoch? Why was he taken? What did he see? The Book of Enoch attempts to answer those questions by expanding his story into an extraordinary series of visions, journeys, and revelations. Whether one accepts those accounts as inspired, symbolic, or legendary, they profoundly influenced Jewish religious thought before the time of Christ. The discovery that changed everything. For centuries, many historians believed the Book of Enoch had been lost forever. Only one complete version survived in the ancient Ethiopian language known as Ge'ez, where it remained part of the biblical canon of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. Many scholars assumed the work had disappeared elsewhere. Then, in 1947, everything changed. Near the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea, a Bedouin shepherd searching for a lost goat entered a cave that would become one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Inside were ancient scrolls preserved for nearly 2,000 years. Today, they're known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among the hundreds of manuscripts were fragments of the Book of Enoch written in Aramaic. This discovery proved something remarkable. The book wasn't a medieval invention. It was already circulating among Jewish communities centuries before Christianity began. That transformed the conversation completely. Instead of asking whether Enoch was ancient, scholars began asking how influential it had actually been. The story begins before Noah. Unlike Genesis, which moves quickly through early human history, the Book of Enoch pauses to explore one particular mystery, the strange passage in Genesis 6. It's only 4 verses long, yet it has puzzled readers for generations. The passage describes the sons of God taking wives from among human women. Their offspring become the Nephilim, often translated as giants or mighty men of old. Genesis offers almost no explanation. The Book of Enoch builds an entire narrative around those verses. It identifies the sons of God as a group of heavenly beings called the Watchers. Led by figures such as Semjaza and Azazel, they descend to earth, break divine boundaries, and teach humanity knowledge that was never meant to be revealed. According to Enoch, these teachings included metalworking, weapon-making, astrology, enchantments, cosmetics, and various forms of hidden knowledge. The result isn't progress, it's corruption. Violence spreads across the earth. Humanity turns against itself. Creation falls into disorder. Within Enoch's narrative, these events help explain why the flood eventually becomes necessary. Forbidden knowledge or ancient symbolism. This is where interpretation becomes fascinating. Did ancient readers believe angels literally taught humanity these skills? Some probably did. Others may have understood the story symbolically. Throughout history, many religious scholars have viewed the Watchers as representing humanity's misuse of knowledge rather than knowledge itself. After all, metal can become farming tools or weapons. Astronomy can guide navigation or fuel superstition. Knowledge itself isn't evil. How it's used determines its consequences. Whether read literally or symbolically, the Book of Enoch raises a timeless question. Can civilization advance faster than wisdom? That question feels just as relevant today as it did over 2,000 years ago. A journey through the heavens. One reason the Book of Enoch captivated ancient readers is that it goes far beyond Earth. Enoch describes being guided through multiple heavenly realms by angelic beings. He witnesses places of judgment, storehouses controlling snow, rain, and winds, brilliant heavenly lights moving according to precise laws, and a divine throne unlike anything found elsewhere in early Jewish literature. These visions weren't written as science textbooks. They reflected how ancient people imagined the structure of the universe. Yet they also reveal something important. Long before telescopes or modern astronomy, people were already asking enormous questions. How is the universe ordered? Who governs it? Why does creation follow consistent patterns? The language may be ancient. The curiosity is timeless. Why was the book left out? Perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding the Book of Enoch isn't what it says. It's why most people have never read it. The answer isn't simple. The Bible wasn't assembled in a single meeting or by one person. Different Jewish and Christian communities preserved different collections of sacred writings over many centuries. Although Enoch was respected by many early believers, it gradually fell out of regular use in most traditions. Some religious leaders questioned its authorship. Others viewed parts of its content as too symbolic or speculative. Meanwhile, books that were more widely accepted across different communities eventually became part of the biblical canon used by most churches today. That process wasn't about hiding the book. It was about determining which writings would be recognized as authoritative scripture. Even after its exclusion, however, Enoch never completely disappeared. Its influence continued appearing in later religious literature, theology, and historical discussions for centuries. The book that even the New Testament mentions. One detail often surprises people who are hearing about Enoch for the first time. The New Testament actually refers to it. In the Epistle of Jude, a passage closely resembles a prophecy found in the Book of Enoch. Jude writes, "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones." The wording closely parallels a passage in 1 Enoch. This doesn't automatically mean the entire Book of Enoch was considered scripture by every early Christian community. Ancient writers frequently quoted respected sources without placing them on the same level as sacred canon. Even so, the reference demonstrates something significant. The Book of Enoch was familiar enough that an early Christian author expected readers to recognize it. Its ideas weren't hidden. They were part of the intellectual and religious world of the first century. Why modern readers are rediscovering its interest in the Book of Enoch has exploded over the last few decades. Some people approach it from a religious perspective. Others study it as an important historical document. Still others encounter it through documentaries, podcasts, or internet theories connecting it to everything from ancient civilizations to extraterrestrials. This is where caution becomes important. The Book of Enoch itself never mentions aliens. It never describes advanced technology hidden beneath the earth. Many popular claims circulating online combine Enoch with completely unrelated theories. Those ideas may be entertaining, but they shouldn't be confused with what the ancient text actually says. The real Book of Enoch is already extraordinary. It explores cosmic justice, the consequences of rebellion, the responsibility that comes with knowledge, and humanity's place within a universe governed by moral order. It doesn't need modern additions to be fascinating. The questions Enoch leaves behind. Perhaps the reason the Book of Enoch continues attracting readers isn't because it answers every mystery. It's because it raises better questions. Why did early Jewish communities preserve these stories for centuries? Why did so many themes from Enoch influence later religious thought? Why do fragments of its worldview appear across multiple ancient traditions? And why has a book excluded from most modern Bibles remained part of religious discussion for more than 2,000 years? History rarely gives simple answers. Instead, it leaves us with evidence, context, and unanswered questions. The Book of Enoch belongs firmly in that category. It opens a window into how ancient people understood the unseen world. Whether those visions were divine revelation, symbolic literature, or religious imagination depends largely on the reader's perspective. But their historical influence is beyond dispute. Between scripture and history, one of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming every ancient text must be either completely true or completely false. History is rarely that simple. The Book of Enoch wasn't written as a modern history book. It belongs to a tradition known as apocalyptic literature, a style of writing filled with visions, symbolism, heavenly journeys, and prophetic imagery. Understanding that literary style changes how the book is read. Its purpose wasn't necessarily to describe historical events with modern precision. It sought to explain profound questions. Why does evil exist? Why does suffering continue? What happens when divine order is rejected? Who ultimately governs history? Those questions remain just as powerful today as they were more than 2,000 years ago. The legacy that refused to disappear. Although excluded from most biblical canons, the Book of Enoch never vanished. Its themes influenced early Jewish writings. Its imagery appears in Christian literature. Its stories continue inspiring scholars, theologians, historians, and curious readers alike. Perhaps that's why it has survived for so long, not because everyone agreed with it, but because no one could completely ignore it. Very few ancient books have generated so much discussion while remaining outside the Bible. That alone makes it one of the most remarkable documents from the ancient world. Did the Book of Enoch reveal what happened before Genesis? Not exactly. Genesis remains the opening book of the Bible, and the Book of Enoch was never intended to replace it. What Enoch does provide is something equally valuable. It reveals how many ancient Jews understood the unseen events surrounding humanity's earliest history. It expands brief biblical passages into detailed narratives. It introduces the Watchers, explores the origins of corruption, and presents a universe where heavenly and earthly events are deeply connected. Whether one views it as inspired tradition, symbolic literature, or an important historical text, its influence on religious thought is undeniable. Perhaps the greatest lesson isn't hidden in its prophecies or its visions. It's hidden in its survival, a book nearly lost to history, preserved in distant monasteries, rediscovered among ancient scrolls, and still asking the same question it asked more than 2,000 years ago. How much of the story have we forgotten?